lots of time, hopefully, by conquering these limiting beliefs. These limiting beliefs I mentioned that affect online business owners, freelancers, creatives, coaches, whatever bracket you fall into. I feel like these are quite universal. All right. I think they're really universal. And I think they can even be applied in like a B2B corporate space as well. However, I'm going to try and tailor this obviously more towards creatives. There may be elements that you want to speak about afterwards, and we've got time afterwards for a bit of a Q&A as well. So rather than just sticking loads of questions in, if there is something, hopefully I'll cover it anyway, but I'm sure there'll be stuff that I haven't. So hold on to it until the end. I don't know if there's the opportunity, Chloe, for people to come on camera or on audio. If not, cool. I'm happy to answer text questions, but I can stick around for a bit, and I'm more than happy to as well, just to make sure people get the most out of the session. So another reason to stick around as well, if you stay until the end as a special bonus, I'm going to run a bit of a competition to win a free 90-minute one-on-one with me. So all you have to do is stick around until the end, but also take a picture of one of the slides and tag me on either Instagram or on LinkedIn. Tag Chloe as well. And then out of the people that share, I will select someone and drop them a DM, and we can cover any topic that you want, really. I mean, we can look at whether it's putting together an offer, whether it's looking at content, or whether it's something off the back of this, which is more either lead gen or sales related. So without further ado, let's jump in. Before we jump in, I forgot about this slide. Stick your phone on silent. Close down all your apps, browser tabs, games of Candy Crush, Minesweeper, if you're as old as me. Shut the door, and most importantly, get comfy. We've got some good stuff lined up. Seriously, I've put a lot into this, so you come to the right place if you're looking to grow your online business, but you're slightly unsure of what to do next. If you're overwhelmed by all these gurus online telling you a million different things you've got to do, either on Instagram, LinkedIn, or pretty much any social platform, really. Or if you've got mental blocks preventing you from outwardly talking about your business, showing up on social, jumping on calls, or discussing money, which is a big one. So if this sounds like you, if you fall into any of these categories, do me a favor and drop a comment in the chat and let me know, what do you think the one thing is that's stopping you from growing as a business owner, as a creative, as a practitioner in the space? What's the one thing that's stopping you from growing right now? Drop it in the chat. I'm going to address it. Basma's saying afraid of rejection. Feel you on that one. Mindset around money. My confidence from Francesca. Billy, mindset around money. Okay. Apprehensive. So these are all things that I think tie into these limiting beliefs, and we're gonna address them. People's criticism, big one. That was a massive one for me. Rather than the rejection, it was more the fear of judgment. And we're going to get into that. We're going to get into every single one of these things. And I can confidently tell you we're going into them in depth in the top 5. So sellers, I'll try and sell you, Basma. Depending on what you want to buy, we can get to that at the end. But whatever it is, even if it's bands outside of what everyone's just dropped in on the chat, you've got my support. Like, I'm here to help you overcome them. But first of all, who the hell am I to even jump on here and start trying to help people? Well, what's important isn't everything that's on this slide that you see in this very braggy slide that's got all my wins on there. It's actually what's not on that slide. It's the mistakes that I've made in life. It's the mistakes that I've made in my career and my own business that I think you guys can probably learn more from, rather than me saying I've sold content strategy and content to FedEx, for example, or Jack Daniels. Because don't get me wrong, that's great. But it's more the mistakes, the early stage mistakes that I've made in those areas. So to let you guys know, and I'm quite vocal about my mistakes on social platforms, because I think, one, people like to see the journey, and two, they can learn from them. But taking it back, my history is B2B sales, cold calls in corporate originally. And going right back to the start, when I was first starting out, I used to be terrified. I used to literally shaking, sweaty palms, scared to make cold calls. Like I used to ring phone numbers and pretend to have conversations just so my employers or the line manager or whatever thought I was busy, just to avoid speaking to people. And call times were tracked. The gap between calls was tracked. And I was trying to play the system. I never got caught either, which was pretty good. I'm quite proud of that. But more sort of fast forward into the present day or almost present day, I've built a whole course, loads of landing pages, email sequences, and I never, ever pushed the button. Yeah, I never executed. I spent days and weeks planning. I've had nightmare clients. I've over delivered to clients. I've invested what I can confidently say tens of thousands of dollars or pounds now in mentors and coaches and courses that ultimately resulted in nothing or very little. And I can safely say the one thing that changed everything for me was shifting my mindset. The most important weapon in your arsenal, without a shadow of a doubt. It's going to be hard to get results in any area if you're not laying it on a good foundation. And that foundation is you. It's not your website, your landing page, your LinkedIn follow account, whatever it is. It's you. Okay. Now, these are just, I don't show these results to sort of show off. I show you these basically to show you how what 6 to 8 months of focused work can do, not for me, for other people, for my clients and people that I've working with now and in the past, receiving messages like this from clients saying like they're so happy they could cry, waking up to screenshots of other people paying them. And a lot of this is financial, yeah, but it's completely possible alongside the personal transformation within a 6-month period, for sure. Like, so long as you are dedicated, you're clear on your why. I don't know if anyone attended the LinkedIn Live I did with Steve Shills last night, but if you have chance after this and you want to hear more of my very low voice, go and check that out, because that was absolutely, some of the knowledge he was dropping in that was phenomenal. And it comes down to being crystal clear on what you want and why you want it. Then you can go out and you can truly help people from a selfless place and make money doing it. All right. So, as we say, mindset is crucial. The way I look at mindset is the way you talk to yourself about yourself. And so many people have limiting beliefs around showing up and putting themselves out there. And we're going to run through what they are now. But first, what are limiting beliefs? Everyone experiences them, absolutely every single person on this planet, but learning how to identify them can help you prevent these beliefs from limiting you. So for me, again, and this is all, I'm no mindset coach. This is me pulling on a year's experience of running a business and being a business owner, but also 15-ish years in sales as well. For me, a limiting belief is a reason that you tell yourself, consciously or subconsciously, that you can't do something. Okay. So it's you telling yourself, not even you telling yourself, your brain telling you that you can't do something, or you can do something, in some cases, if we're reversing it. But before we jump into what the 5 are, I want to look at a few examples just to sort of put this into hopefully some real life scenarios for everyone. I can't do this. I'm not good enough. Now, I'd like to say that's a sort of a form of imposter syndrome. The thing here is, it might be because you've never done this before. If you want to be someone that you're not now, you're going to have to become someone that you are not now. You're going to have to become someone different, right? So the reason that you're maybe not good enough, or the reason you think you can't do it, is probably because you've not done enough of it, or you're not good enough right now because you haven't done it. Basically, you've not performed these actions or the set of processes before, during, and after. But that doesn't mean you can't or won't be good enough after some practice, after 2 months' time. Okay. I'll fly through these quite quickly because a lot of them you'll start to see similarities in them all, I think. I need to work my way up. A big one for anyone who's employed, or I'm not quite qualified to talk about that yet, or show up like that yet. I've not got enough followers. What will the people, I can't talk about this until I'm at someone else's level, so-and-so's level. Like, why? who do you actually need to seek permission from? And this got me when it came to just publishing content, not even trying to sell something, publishing content. What makes me think that I've got the right to do this? But the question back to that is, what makes you think you'll ever graduate to a stage where you feel like the time is right, or you've done enough work, or you've made enough money? It'll never come, ever. So the time is now to do and be exactly what you want. This one was the biggest, absolute biggest for me. It held me back for years. I didn't post what I wanted to on social, probably because of one or two people's opinions, but more importantly, what I thought their opinions would be, not what they actually were. I don't know what they were. I'll never know what they were, but what I thought they might be. What will Dave, and I've protected the name, it's not actually Dave, but what would Dave from work think about me? Or what will my mate Stacy think about me? Whoever it is. One question here is, would you trade places with Dave? The answer is probably not. So his real opinion of you probably won't change. He has an opinion of you already, right? It won't change whether you do it or you don't do it. Okay. So drop a little emoji, a thumbs down, a poo emoji, whatever you want. If you didn't do something, I know Basma's jumping on this one. Let me know in the chat if you didn't do something because you were scared of being judged by someone else. And this one's close to my heart, and it pisses me off like 2 years later, or 1 year later, that there we go, we got the poo emoji. It really annoys me about myself that I let someone do that to me without even asking them what what they actually thought about it. I'm just making something up in my brain. It's just, and then you start telling yourself that again and again. I'm underqualified. Yep, you probably are. You're just starting out. You probably are underqualified. There's only one way to change it. Someone else is better than me. There's always someone better. Better looking, better skill, better train, better car, better salary. But can you really, hopefully you're starting to realize a bit of a pattern here. A lot of these things are invisible. They're like invisible shackles. And can you really afford to let those shackles stop you from living the life that you want, or running the business that you want, or showing up and publishing the content that you want? The answer is no, you can't. Because if you do, you'll never do it. And it'll always be this little carrot on a stick that's dangling in front of you, the thing that got away. Big one. What if he says no? Well, then you're no worse off than if you didn't ask. But what if she says yes? One thing to understand before we look at these 5 beliefs, right, is where they come from. And I've drilled it down again. This is me. I've not done much research on this, I've got to admit. So if there are any mindset people in here, yeah, hopefully I'm on the money. But for me, there are 3 root causes. And the first one is, I think, social conditioning. We feel bound by what other people around us are doing, or in a lot of cases, not doing. Like, I've not got many creators in my circle of friends, right? So for me to step outside that is a little bit weird. And that's when things will start to get said, and like, ooh, why is he doing that? Or who does he think he is to do that? Kind of the stuff we've already covered, right? So we might be afraid, and I know I was at the start, of being too different or standing out a bit too much. The thing to remember here is that these thoughts are usually biased, right? They're based on past experiences. So if we've failed at something before, we tend to view that situation through the past lens. If I couldn't do it then, I can't do it now. Next is resistance to change. And it's a big root cause because change is uncomfortable. Yeah, the easiest thing to do is not change. Not changing is easy. You can just carry on as you are. And a lot of the time, doing something new, something like this, especially where you're putting yourself out there or you're asking for money when you've not done it before, is a massive change. You're stepping out of that comfort zone. And that past lens that I mentioned brings that bias into the equation again and tells you it's easier to stay put. And it's right. It is easier to stay put. It's easier to not take the jump, not send that text or make a phone call, to not post that picture. Why? because it's a step into the unknown. It's change, and change is uncomfortable. The last thing is mindset. And most people either have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. And people with a growth mindset are able to override these negative thoughts and focus on achieving the end goal. Whereas people with a fixed mindset let those negative beliefs hold them back. That fear of failure, rejection, and judgment that we mentioned. They're hard to overcome, but that's what we're going to go into now. Okay. I feel like it's been a bit doom and gloom so far. So remember, we've got some good news now. You can choose, and I mean this, you can choose to remove these limiting beliefs or any limiting beliefs. You can choose. It's a choice. I'm not saying it won't take time. I'm not saying you won't need willpower. I'm not saying it won't take training, but you can practice and learn how to remove them. And I want this session today to be the spark that starts that change, that starts that choice. Okay. So without further ado, I've gone on enough now. Let's jump into what I think are the 5 most common limiting beliefs in sales and business. Firstly, the fear or rejection of failure. Rejection is a pretty universal experience. Yeah. Being turned down for a date, being declined a promotion, not being invited somewhere with friends. Every single person on this call right now, every single person in the country, every single person in the world has been rejected at some point. And yes, we know it's not nice. It doesn't make you feel good. But look at this part here. The actual fear of rejection is simply just you preempting the fact you're going to fail. You don't even know. You don't know for sure. You just think you're going to fail. You're making a guess. You've got no idea whether you'll fail or not until you try. And even if you do fail, probably not a good enough reason to give up after one go. Okay. So when I wrote this, the footballer Ronaldo had 61 shots at goal last season. About half of them were on target. So only 50% of the shots taken by arguably the best striker in the world even have a chance of becoming goals. All right. So Ronaldo knows half of his attempts can be written off on average, but still only a third of the shots on target will actually result in a goal. So let's imagine he lets this start affecting him. Yeah, he starts to feel down. He's scared to shoot. He's afraid he's going to fail. So he only takes 10% of the shots. He only takes 6. Now, based on those previous stats, 3 on target, and he'll only score 1 goal. And then what we know here is the fear of failure or the fear of rejection is stopping him achieving his potential, right? Now let's imagine it really gets him down and he's afraid to shoot at all. No shots, not on target, no goals scored. He can't score. He might score an own goal. That's about it. He won't score though, ever. He will never score with this approach. So there's an ice hockey player, I think he's an ice hockey player called Wayne Gretzky. And it's quite a well-known quote, this, but I'm going to say it anyway. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, even though there's only a 1 to 5 probability of scoring. And that is universal. Like, just because you try and do something doesn't mean it's going to go into the goal. So it's going to hit the target, whatever it is. There's a tiny chance that it might actually work. But the more attempts you make, the more likely it is to work. So with no shots, you have a guaranteed 100% failure rate. So Ronaldo knows no shots, no goals. He also knows he won't score them all, not even half. So in a business sense, if you're not doing the right things, if you're not taking those shots, if you're not out there networking, putting out content, having conversations, arranging sales calls, you will not generate enough opportunities. Opportunities equals clients. So if you've not got any of the first, you won't have any of the second. So we know that rejection and failure are going to come. It's going to happen. And if we overcome it by taking action, we're probably going to see results. We can overcome it by taking more action on top of that as well, increasing our outputs. So if we know out of 10 conversations, we get 3 sales opportunities and 1 client, we can increase the number of conversations, which in turn, slowly will start to increase the number of clients. Now, the next thing to remember is don't take rejection personally, especially in business. It's very rarely to do with you. Just because someone else doesn't value your business or product or doesn't want to buy it right now doesn't mean it isn't valuable. So keep in mind that a business conversation, once you're taking the action and you're having a few conversations, one loss is just one of many opportunities. Once you've got a few conversations and opportunities in the pipeline, you'll become less emotionally attached to each one. And therefore, you're going to decrease your fear of failure or rejection. So the key here, no matter what stage you're at, the key here is action. Massive intentional action. Number 2, I don't want to be pushy. More good news. You don't have to be, okay? Let's look at some pushy sales tactics. These things on the screen are pushy. Yeah. These things make buyers hate salespeople. So long as you're not doing any of these things regularly, you're probably not pushy. Remember when your parents told you not to do something? If you were like me, you probably went and did it anyway, just because you don't like being told what to do. And prospects and buyers are the same. They hate being sold to. They hate it. So don't sell to them. Don't sell at all. Don't ever jump in a DM situation with someone or on a sales call and start trying to sell. You got to help them. You got to guide them. You got to talk to them, communicate with them. So just put together in this section a list of non-pushy alternatives. So some takeaways, some things to consider when you're engaging in those either first stage or last stage sales conversations. Okay. You're following up. Have something new to share. It doesn't need to be something like a new PDF. I just mean have something new or different to share with that person. Could just be a new sentence, a new question. Could be a vital part of industry information or something you've spotted on their website that isn't right or something that you really like. Find a reason to follow up other than just going, hi, I'm following up, bringing this to the top of your inbox or whatever the phrases are. Number 2, don't keep talking about yourself. Really, really important. They're not bothered about you. They're bothered about what you can do for them. They're bothered about them, ultimately. Number 3, don't rush. Silence is brilliant. Let them speak. You see, there's little gaps there, almost uncomfortable in between those sentences, almost uncomfortable, but then you can talk. Little things like that, and just let the conversation breathe. Let them speak as well. Number 4 is sticking to your pricing. Big one. Don't throw discounts around. They just make you look, I believe, that cheap anyway. And it makes you look a bit untrustworthy. So know your pricing and stick to it. Don't start throwing discounts around. And number 5, don't just reach out on one channel. Okay. Use creative ways to engage your buyers. Sorry, I think this is number 6 or 7, actually. I don't know why I said 5. Use creative ways to engage people. You don't just have to LinkedIn DM them all the time. You might have their email, or you might be able to find them on Twitter or Instagram and follow them on there if you're selling to that type of audience, obviously. So the thing to remember with this list is everything listed here is easier than everything that was on the last slide. So ask yourself, are you a nice person? Do you believe your solution helps people? Are you empathetic towards other people and their situations? And if the answer is yes, you're not in danger of being pushy. You're trying to help the person you're speaking to. You're not trying to swindle them or steal from them. If you're genuine, if you're true to yourself, if your product works or service works and you think it's going to help someone achieve what they want to, then you are not pushy. You're in business. Number 3, offering a discount or an incentive. You don't have to do this. I think discounting is so bad. Yes, there are times and places and the right sort of markets and services that or products that can be discounted at the right time. But overall, we're talking overall here. Don't assume people don't want to buy at full price. Okay? You set your price for a reason. When you immediately think you need to discount and drop your prices, this is similar to one of the earlier slides, your brain's making an assumption. Your brain is making an assumption that this person won't buy what you're selling for its full value. How do you know, though? How do you know they won't buy? Seriously, how do you know they won't have double that amount to spend? How do you know they aren't going to turn into your biggest fan? How do you know they won't actually tell all their friends about how valuable the solution is? You can't make assumptions in sales. It's going to cost you more than you know. Literally, you will not know how much it's going to cost you. Okay. Now, here are a few reasons that you shouldn't discount. And as you can see in the first row, it has a short-term and a long-term effect, I firmly believe. So, firstly, I feel you're going to lose buyer respect. If you jump down in cost straight away, it makes you look flaky. It makes you look indecisive. On top of that, you start to attract bargain hunters, and clients who seek discounts typically aren't good clients. If you discount, you're sacrificing your profit. That's, apart from being fulfilled by serving people, that's one of the main reasons people go into business, if not the main reason. Don't sacrifice your profit. That's what you do this for. Lastly, in the short-term column, it will demonstrate a lack of self-confidence, okay? If someone's confident when they're selling something, why would they feel the need to drop the price? It's almost like you don't believe that this thing you're selling is actually going to have the right effect. Now, you may end up discounting further along in the conversation, but personally, I would stick to my guns 100% on pricing. It's a lesson that I've learned over the years, and more importantly, I've learned it recently in my own business. You have to know your worth, know your value, and stick to it. Now, looking at the long-term effects, discounting can create an expectation of future discounting. So if you discount once, well, they've already done it, they'll do it again. You paint your own picture. You create people's perception of you. So if you do it once, you'll be expected to do it again and again and again. It's the same as the next point, which is the over delivery. If you stay on calls or perform loads of extra tasks that go above and beyond consistently, you'll be looked at as someone that is happy to over deliver. And again, for me, that devalues your service. More importantly, it devalues your time. And a weird one, I was in two minds whether to include this one or not, but, well, obviously I did. But word gets around. Yeah, people talk. You will be known for your price point, and you'll also be known as someone that can potentially be haggled. Because if someone haggles you, they're probably going to tell someone else about it. And you can create, I remember there was a sales coach who I was sort of equal follow account to, came up at the sort of the same time on Instagram, and I was selling something for £2,000. She was selling it for 5. And obviously they're slightly different, but we were selling our solution at that cost. And she was known for having a higher price than most sales coaches for what she was actually delivering to people. And I didn't find that out through her. I found it out because someone else told me. And automatically, knowing that someone's a 2K versus a 5K option makes buyers put that 5K option on a higher pedestal just because it's got a higher amount attached to it. Now, the same thing will happen if someone entered into a sales conversation with her and she said it was 5, but then or they thought it was 5, and then she said, "Oh yeah, today you can get it for 2.5, or you can get it for 3." Straight away, it's just painting that picture in that person's mind, and it's not a positive one. So, here are some healthy alternatives to discounting. Firstly, you can downsize the product or service. So if someone says, I can't afford it, rather than just jumping in and giving a discount, you can ask how much they can afford and say, for that investment, we can deliver about 60% of the service, or you would get X, Y, and Z. Alternatively, you can offer a bolt on or like an added extra. So I'm afraid there's nothing I can do on cost. Our prices are fixed, but I may be able to add in some XYZ extra value. We have this available that you might like. I'm speaking broadly here. Next, you can offer an on-call incentive. So we offer an on-call incentive rate of 3,000 instead of 3,500 to reward action takers, but it is only available right now. You can package things up or offer a bulk buy. I'm not sure that's the right terminology, but if you can commit for 6 months instead of 3, it would work out at a lower cost per month. How does that sound? You can also waive your setup fee. So if you're to approve today, I can waive the £500 setup fee. If you have to take time to think about it, or it extends into next week or past whatever deadline that you set, we won't be able to waive the setup fee, unfortunately. Second to last, offer a payment plan. We can't move on cost, but what we can do is make things slightly easier for you and split the payment across 3 months. How does that sound? Lastly, and I've done this a few times, walk away. I'm being deadly serious there. Walk away. If you're not getting the right vibe from someone, and that's before you've known them and worked with them, you're probably going to get a similar feeling, if not 10 times worse, after they've spent a bit of time being your client or customer. So sometimes walking away is the best thing to do. Quick reminder, if you'd like to be in the running for winning a free one-to-one call with me, grab your phone, take a picture or screenshot the presentation, share it on Instagram or LinkedIn, and tag me. I'm going to collect the names of the people who make it through to the end. And if you've shared something, I'll drop you a message tomorrow if you've won. On to number 4. If it works. There we go. No one likes salespeople. Why? Why don't people like salespeople? We mentioned this past lens, this bias that people have. And buyers have that too. It's usually people don't like salespeople, usually due to a bad experience they've had in the past, and they will view all people sort of pushing something or selling something through that same lens, that biased lens. So this bad experience that most people have had usually shapes a limiting belief in the mind of the buyer, rather than in the mind of the seller. We're talking about the opposite here. So very similar to the sort of the pushy sales tactics that we touched on earlier. Some people have had very, very bad experiences with sales reps. So they don't listen. They talk too much. They don't follow up. Yeah, and that sounds weird, but believe it or not, if you've had a good conversation with someone, people actually do want you to follow up. It's a strange concept when you've not thought about it before, but the more you get into those situations where you're required to follow up, you'll see that is the God's honest truth. False promises and lies, they're untrustworthy. They don't know their products, and they say whatever they can to get a yes out of people. They refuse to take no for an answer, basically forcing the sale. Or a big one, and I see a lot of people pitching without doing any sort of discovery or building rapport, but there is a failure with most salespeople. They fail to understand people's needs. So they don't take the time to find out enough info. So how can we remove these preconceptions? First of all, you've got to know who you're dealing with. You've got to read the room. Some people will want to speak about business straight away. Other people, they just want to talk. They want to be heard. Imagine someone, say you've had a really bad broadband problem, for example, and you're with Virgin Media in the UK. You ring, this has been going on for a month or so. You ring Virgin Media and they just hang up, whatever. So you ring them back and now you're annoyed. So you want to yell and just let everything out on the first person who answers, basically. If you're in sort of the right situation with a buyer, they'll be exactly the same, because they'll be experiencing some frustration probably. They'll be carrying around some pain, and you have to let people talk and question them further and help me understand more about that. Yeah. So read the room and adapt. There's a technique called mirroring, where if someone's talking really, really fast, you can do the same. Or if someone's really, really quiet, you relax. If someone swears, you can swear, but not until they do, that kind of thing. And it works a lot of the time. Cutting to the chase as well. Don't beat around the bush too much. Find out the information you need to find out. Probe a little bit more. Ask a few more questions if need be on top of that. And then start to cut to the chase. Another thing is being firm. Being firm doesn't mean you don't have to be polite. So taking control of the conversation is very different to dominating the conversation. So at the start of every call, I make sure that the agenda is set. Sorry, at the start of every sales call, I make sure that the agenda is set by me early on. So people know what's about to happen. I'm in charge of the call. You wanted to speak to me. Here's how these calls usually work. They last for X amount. Here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen after that. At the end, hopefully we'll reach this outcome. If not, this will happen. Does that sound good? Be firm. Remind yourself, though, you are here to help. You're not here to sell. You're here to help them. Your job as a business owner or as a salesperson or whatever it is that you do when you're trying to convert a client isn't necessarily to convert them. You're a guide. You're trying to do your best to help them make the best decision for them, rather than the best decision for you, which is just sell to them anyway. The best decision for them might not be to work with you. And if the best decision for them is to not work with you, that's the best decision for you too. Take your time. Listen to what people say. And a little point here at the end. Buyers or prospects aren't afraid of being closed. People do want to buy things. They just don't want to look like a fool or make a bad decision. So before you go out and sell something, especially if you're charging a lot of money, just make sure it works and you're not taking money for the sake of it. Okay. But here's the real point. This is the real reason you don't need to worry if the buyer likes or hates salespeople. You are not a salesperson. You're not. You might have something to sell, but you're not a salesperson. You're a business owner. You're an expert. You're a guide. As I said, you're much, much more than a salesperson. You provide a valuable product or a valuable service that solves issues that are negatively impacting the person you're speaking to. There is a genuine need for what you have to offer out there. Trust me, people want to buy from you. People want to hear from you and people want to buy from you. But it doesn't mean you need to sell. Which brings me on to the last point, when it works. It's working. Number 5, I can't sell. Possibly the biggest. And as I kind of said earlier, look, if you're just starting out, you probably can't. You probably can't sell. How many sales calls or meetings have you had in the past 6 to 12 months? If you've only made like 5 calls and sent 7.5 DMs, of course you're not good enough yet. It's like riding a bike. It takes training and practice. You're going to fall off a bit. Peaks and troughs, hills and valleys, rough and smooth, up and down. I can't think of any more. But you have to be willing to accept that as part of the journey. And you have to be willing to practice. You have to be willing to put in the reps. Another main factor that affects creatives is a lot of them are introverted. Yeah. I'm like in the middle. I don't know what the hell I am, but a lot of people in this space are introverted. But here's a way to sort of reframe that. Some of the best people in the world are quite quiet. They're quite shy and reserved. All right. There isn't just one type of personality either that people like to buy from. So sales is made up basically of interactions. A lot of the time it's human interactions, and that's mega complicated. So even if you're not an outgoing center of attention type of person, you can still be extremely successful at selling. And here's the real reframe. So inverts, get my words out. Introverts are typically more analytical than extroverts. Being analytical means you understand things more. Understanding things more means you're probably better at solving problems. Okay. Why do people buy? They buy because they want a problem solving. The other thing about being introverted, again, this is a sweeping statement, but introverts are typically better listeners too. And you can only listen when you're silent. And you take more information away from a sales situation when you're silent. The more you're silent, the more the other person will fill that space. The more they fill that space, the more ammo you have to then present your solution back to them. Okay. I heard a quote the other day about silence. It's not actually that good. I've just remembered it. Silence in a world full of noise is a superpower. That was the quote, or something very similar to that. And I liked it at the time. Now I'm kind of wishing I hadn't said it, but it's good. Last slide. Sales is built on trust. Okay. You don't need to be a slick talking car salesman from the 80s or 90s or whenever this was filmed. I think it's 90s actually. You're not hoodwinking. You're not discounting. You're not pushy. Those tactics are so long gone. Don't get me wrong. That type of salesperson does still exist, but those tactics are, it's a good film, Chloe. It's one of my favorites. They're long gone, but you weren't any of those things in the first place. All right. I just want to show you a couple of clients of mine that had reservations or mental blocks, either about selling or about working with us. So Kat's a morning success coach. She sells amazing trainings across Europe now. It might even be the world. And it says it here. She now wakes up to 4-figure payments. Last time I checked in, she was on 11K for the month. She's just been flown out to Norway and Paris to go and deliver talks to corporate clients of hers. That's Kat again, so I clearly made a mistake. Justina owns an agency. She was, I don't know, about 5K a month when it might have even been 3K a month when she started working with me. So she's made the switch from content creation and social media management, so the more intensive, like labor intensive side of things, to coaching business owners. And she made 15 grand last month. It's insane. That massive push when you focus your energy and train your mind. I'm not going to go through all of these. Vicky, Donna, and yeah, the list goes on. So there's no sales pitch at the end of this. I'd love to, but if you're an action taker and you're interested in potentially, charging 4 figures, hitting 5-figure months, whatever it may be, you can drop me a DM either on Instagram or LinkedIn and we'll have a chat. Yeah, there's no catch. We'll just have a DM exchange. But that's it. That is it. So I'd love some feedback. I will stop sharing my screen. And I would love to answer some questions if people have any. I might have missed a couple in the chat.
Thank you, Chris. That was brilliant. That was really good. Thank you for that. I think there was one question I saw from Basma asking when you were talking about discounts. Could you use a discount for a test or beta product?
Yeah. It's all in the frame, isn't it, really, with that kind of thing? So when I launched my program, I had sales calls and I let people know that this was a brand new product. And because of that, I am selling it for cheaper than it's going to be. or more cost effective, I should say, than it's going to be, rather than using the word cheap. So it's up to you where you communicate that, though, because obviously there are different, you think about the buyer journey, there are different stages that you're going to take people on. And it's when you drop that into the messaging. And you could do that very early on in the messaging and say, I'm looking for 3 people, or I've got 3 spots available for my beta or beta, whatever it is, program. It's heavily discounted, or there's a massive incentivized rate to join. Who wants to chat? Or you could just say, I'm launching my program. Obviously, go into a bit more detail, but I'm launching my program. Who wants to speak about it? Cool. Speak to a few people and say, now you are one of the lucky 3 people I'm speaking to. And because of that, I'm offering a much cheaper rate to join this time around.
Lovely. We've got another question here from Jamie. Do you have any tips for separating yourself from the business when it comes to sales calls? He says he's thinking specifically about dealing with rejection and being able to move on quickly.
I'm guessing, Jamie, that means emotionally, right? Well, how do you read that, Chloe?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, cool. So tips for separating yourself emotionally from the business. Yes. And I kind of touched on this in one of the slides, and this is only one way of doing it. I'm sure we can unpack a couple, but the more opportunities you have in your pipeline, the less you will be emotionally attached to the ones that are in it. Big one. So the key there is to get the opportunities in your pipeline. How do you do that? You need to go out and complete the Holy Trinity. If you're on, Jamie, I know you're on LinkedIn. So it's content, comments, and conversations behind closed doors. Now, there are other things that begin with C as well. I know I put it out as a post and got what about community? That begins with C. Like, yeah, I know. But those 3 things as a foundation. Community will come as a byproduct of doing those things consistently. So the key there is action. So showing up every single day, or at least 6 days a week, is what I would recommend. And knowing that, 1, it's not you, and 2, it's going to happen, man. It's going to happen a lot. I profess to be really good at sales. Well, I don't, but I try and portray the fact that I'm really good at sales. My closing rate's like anywhere from 33 down to 20%, which means, think of that in terms of the Ronaldo slides, how many shots I'm taking versus how many I'm scoring. It's the nature of the beast. There's rejection is everywhere. So go armed with that. And it's a case of putting in the reps and having it happen to you and going, oh no, I'm in a bit of a slump. Boom. Then you get someone, and then you're riding a massive high. And I've been in some, dark places in my sales years when I'd have a month or 2 when I was literally clocking 0. And for a business owner, that was just as a sales rep or whatever I was. As a business owner, it means a whole lot more emotionally. If you've got kids, if you've got a partner, if you've got a mortgage, it means a lot. So that's why it's even more important not to be emotionally invested. And I'm emotionally invested. Don't get me wrong. I'm not coming on here and saying I'm some robot or something. I'm emotionally invested for a couple of reasons. 1, because I really want money. 2, because I really want to work with people and help people. And 3, because I absolutely love it as well. And it's hard to not be emotionally invested. Sorry, say again, Chloe.
They're definitely good reasons.
Yeah, exactly. And I just find if you get to a certain place where you end up showing up completely as yourself, that's when you get even further accepted. And when you're in that spot, opportunities come to you. And when they don't work out, it's fine. I willingly tell people not to join my program on sales calls. If I don't think they're a good fit, I'll say that I don't think this is for you, or I'll make them come to that conclusion themselves. Because ultimately, not having that logical attachment to things rather than having an emotional attachment is going to serve you so much more in the future. I let one person who has a bad vibe into my program, it could ruin it for me, my team, and everyone else as well. So bad clients are the worst. And that's another reason not to get emotionally attached. Become logically attached.
I like that. Yeah, that makes sense. We've got a follow-up from the question about beta pricing. She says, when do you start raising the price? So establish that it's good now, you're happy with the product or your service. So how do you approach that conversation?
It depends if you're raising it to the people that are in the program or in the beta, or if you're raising it externally. So I would say as soon as you start getting results that exceed the value you've charged, then it is a good time to put it up externally and potentially internally to existing members or clients as well. It's a real tough one. I eked mine up rather than just going, right, I'm doing it at this cost. Right now I'm doubling the price.
Yeah.
I eked it up, but also the fact that you are going to put the prices up is a really, really good sort of marketing and lead gen approach. Sorry, not marketing. It's a really good lead gen angle. If you're putting your prices up, tell people, tell everyone, tell your whole network multiple times, I'm putting my prices up on this date. If you want to take advantage of the current price, you need to book in a call before X date.
Yes, very, very good idea. Yeah, I like that. I think I sign up to a lot of trials and things when they're like, oh, you'll get this price now.
Exactly. Yeah, it's that urgency tactic, isn't it? Attach a date to things wherever you can. It works wonders.
Yes, sense of urgency, definitely. We've got Hannah who asks, where do you think the best place to find new clients is? So she finds a lot on Fiverr at the moment.
Oh, okay. I guess it depends on where you think your audience hang out. Like, there's a reason that you've gone to Fiverr and not Pinterest, for example, or Vimeo. That's the worst example ever, but you know what I mean. For me, it's LinkedIn without a shadow of a doubt. Built my business on Instagram, successful business on there running. The minute I switched, not long after I switched over to LinkedIn, that's when more inbound leads started coming my way because I was putting the content out. Vimeo. I was putting the content out that I'd already sort of manufactured, and I knew how to not play the system, but utilize the algorithm and understood some of the nuances. But for me, you've got to look at whether the channel is more sort of business intent or entertainment focused.
All right.
So what are people on there and what are they looking for? With LinkedIn, it's completely business. So you'd expect there to be some opportunity for both buying and selling on that platform. Like with Instagram, there's still opportunity, but it's entertainment. YouTube, big intent channel. If you can dedicate time to putting out 2 long form pieces of video content on YouTube for a year, just ultimate consistency, and then you can make them evergreen by directing people to a calendar link to book a call, and the CTA is on most of them either download something or book a call, which is a game I'm starting to play at the moment. That content will probably have the longest shelf life out of any social platform at all. But it's a massive long-term play, isn't
it? Yeah, I think YouTube's definitely one that it has always been one of the leading platforms for recognition, and it hasn't really slowed down. But thank you. I hope. Hannah.
The other thing, sorry, I'll just add to that, Chloe. The other thing to remember with YouTube is if you need help doing something, you're trying to put up a bookshelf or something. If you need a how-to, you're going to search YouTube. That's what people do at the moment. I know some people are saying, oh, TikTok's taking some of Google's search traffic. I don't know too much about that. I don't use TikTok much. But it's the second biggest search engine in the world, and people can find your content 4 years later, which is why you should have an evergreen CTA on there, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you think about Instagram content shelf life. For me, it's like 3 minutes, and then it's just like, oh, you may as well make something else. Well, probably a day, let's say. But YouTube lives on forever, and it compounds as well.
100%. So, Eamon asks, do you think if your content is effective, you don't need follow-ups as much?
Yeah, it can definitely play the part.
You use your content as your follow-ups, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how you look at things. I came on LinkedIn and I didn't put any sales or conversion type content out there. It was all trying to be really wide, audience build, grow type stuff. And then what was it? Probably 10 days ago, I was like, right, it's time now. I'm going to put out a whole week of conversion content on Instagram and LinkedIn and drive people to book calls, or well, drive people to the DMs, then to push them to book calls. And I could see people logging, trying to book a call on a data capture form, and then not. And then I could see on their Instagram story, on my Instagram stories, that they viewed a particular piece of conversion content and then gone on and booked call. Now, I don't know if there's a direct correlation, but yeah, you can definitely do that. However, I would not use it as a full replacement. When you could just follow up with someone by sending them a message, what's it going to take you? 90 seconds?
Yeah.
Take you longer than a piece of content, and it's direct. And also, there's no guarantee that your content's getting shown to anyone you've been in a sales scenario with anyway. You know, the algorithms are very weird, and anyone that claims to know too much about them is a liar.
Oh yeah, no, it's a constant battle with the algorithm.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's a very good point. I think it's good to have lots of valuable content for inbound leads, but when it comes to closing a sale, it needs that personal touch, I think.
I agree.
Billy asks, for someone who is building the confidence in selling and reaching out to people, do you have a rough number of prospect clients that they should be reaching out to daily or weekly? So when you first getting started, how many would you say to be reaching out? I'm assuming this is sort of cold or warm outreach. It's not going to be like inbound leads.
Yeah. There isn't a number, but I think you're asking a great question, because I think you should turn it into a number. That's what I always used to do with my cold calls. So I'd have a good month at work. I only just recently stopped working for a pretty large agency, and I'd have a good month at work and win a load of clients, and then I'd almost take the foot off the gas. And it wasn't even my job to service the clients. It was just to win the business, then go on to the next. But during all, I did have to do a lot of admin, a lot of work to win the clients, proposal decks, being on the multiple calls, that kind of emails, all that kind of thing. And there's a direct correlation between winning a load of clients and then not winning any, because you can't be everywhere at once. So what I started to do, I went back and reviewed like a year's figures, and I think it was 66% there or thereabouts of my deals that year had originated from cold calls. So I didn't make many cold calls, like nowhere near the numbers I used to in call centers and stuff like that. But then I worked out how many cold calls on average it took to get a meeting, to get a deal, blah, 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 blah. Then you could reverse engineer it and go, right, I want the average deal values this, and I want to get X amount of this. So to do that, I need X meetings. To get X meetings, I need to do X number of calls. And then I doubled it. And then I literally, whenever I got into this slump of I've not got much on, or I've not got enough meetings, aka opportunities, I would tally chart, literally pen on paper, tally chart the number of cold calls, and they wouldn't all be cold. Some of them I'd already spoke to, but I would tally chart the number of calls I'd made. And that's when I realized that you can be quantitative in your approach. And it's really, really good to have a set number. It's like with engagement, people say, do 15 minutes engaging before you post. I say, have a set number of people and know exactly who they are every single day that you're going to, and turn it into a tick box exercise. Give yourself a little target to hit rather than 15 minutes, because 15 minutes making a brew and 15 minutes getting a couple of text messages from your friends and reading an email might actually only be 3 minutes of engaging, but you feel like you've been sat there. If you've got 15 people to engage with, let's say, and you, even more if you know who they are and you're counting each one, it's a lot easier to stick to and becomes more of a habit, which that's the key to a lot of this is making it habitual. So to give you a rough idea, for me, I would, at the very start, I would probably reach out. I don't like to do cold outreach. I wait for the reason to do outreach, which would be some form of interaction, which automatically means it's not cold. And that really, really helps. So you can find excuses to DM anyone. Like, it's not that hard. If need be, especially on LinkedIn, if need be, you can warm them up in the comments for weeks, months before you drop into the DMs, and they will already know who you are. They've probably already been on your profile. It's perfect. And then it's just, now let's have a conversation. You can attend a live event, all sorts. That's another reason why it's such a good platform in comparison to others. So I don't know about a number. I would aim for between 10 and 20 a day.
All right, thank you. We've got a couple more questions here. Let's go down. Eamon asks, what should one do when it comes to payment? Should we take 50% in advance, or should we charge once the project gets complicated or completed? Sorry. Yeah, I think
charge 100% if it's complicated. 100%.
So I think I think what Eamon means is just that obviously the sales conversation is difficult enough, especially for somebody like, say, they're currently competing with these with this mindset. So having to then go on to the actual securing payment as well can be even more difficult. So do you have any sort of tips or advice for that?
Oof, I guess it kind of depends on the service that you're providing. So Eamon, if you're still on, let me know what you do. From a selfish point of view and from a client value point of view, I always try to get 100% payment on the call up front before doing any work. But that's not realistic in every single industry life. I tried that in the agency life. It'd be like, no.
Yeah.
We'll pay you on our 90-day payment terms, or, whatever it is. It's like, but no, I'm joking. But I think some form of initial deposit is, because anyone can sign anything off over the phone and go, yeah, we'll do it. That doesn't mean they're going to do it. And there are a very pessimistic attitude as well. But I know even some of the big brands that we've worked with at an agency level, they just haven't paid. Yeah. Even when they have signed documents as well with T's and C's and all sorts. So some form of commitment is really, really helpful. If we're looking at a freelancer, let's say, that can be a bit tougher, I think, rather than I provide a program and the general consensus is for joining programs that you pay at least something up front, right? But I think 50% in advance where you can, definitely, to secure the project and secure your time. And the way I would play that if I was a freelancer is, in order for me to be able to book the resource in, because obviously I'm working on a couple of projects right now, however you frame it, in order for me to be able to book the resource in, I do need to ask you to sign this, and I also need you to provide payment. And I would come armed with a Stripe link to be able to just go, there's the link, drop it in the chat if you're on a Zoom call, or drop it in the DM.
Yeah,
say,
that's my way.
Yeah, 100%. And then it's not awkward. It's just going through, it's less awkward. It's just going through a process. It's okay, brill. So next steps are typically these. I'm going to fire over a quick agreement for you to digitally sign. I would do the Stripe payment first, actually, then get the signature, because once they've paid, they're going to sign, but they can still not pay if they sign first, kind of thing. So I would do Stripe link, have it ready as well. If you have a sales, if you don't have a sales script or a script framework, I would have a document of questions that you should keep on file and use on every sales call, just as a bit of a flow. I wouldn't have a script, but at the bottom of that, I would have your various payment links. And every time you create a new one, just stick it in there, so you've got access to it immediately. Copy, paste, done. That's a big help as well.
Yeah. So do you find having a sales script is very helpful then when you're first sort of starting to get comfortable with it all?
Yeah, I find role play will be very, very good as well. So if you've got someone that's in the same industry as you, or someone that you trust, anyone that will listen, or someone that's at the same stage as you in a program, something like that, maybe somewhere in here, buddy up with them and go and do your sales pitch to them 5 times, and then do some objection handling loads of times, because that's again where people get stuck. But I still have a script up in front of me. I don't even mean I have a framework. I have the full script. I don't use it, but if I ever, because I think everyone's probably gathered I can talk now. I'll go off on some tangents, right? So I do use that occasionally to bring me back. And it's also got all the other things in there, like the links. And if I want to show them inside the course element of my program, I will have that there as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, that's really good. Basma's asked, is there anywhere she can find good sales scripts or any sort of place where you get good inspiration from?
I do know one place. Where can you find a good sales script? What, without paying for it? I don't know if people give them away, but I would just Google it. You know, ultimately, think of the journey, right, that you want to take people on. You don't even necessarily need to buy or download a script. You're trying to find out why they're on the call, let's say, why they're at the meeting. And I ask that directly. It's like, okay, so first question I always ask, why are you on this call? And then they'll just say nothing, and then they'll tell you, and then you go, tell me more about one point that you said. Tell me more about that. Okay, so where are you at right now? So you're asking, or you're basically saying, what pain have you got, or what frustrations have you got, and then where are you right now? Tell me exactly what's happening, and probe into those as well, so you can find a few more pain points, a few little golden nuggets that you put up your sleeve. Then you start to say, and where are you trying to get to? You know, what's the short, medium, long-term vision? You mentioned this. What are you doing? What do you want to do to transform that area? You mentioned this pain. How are you going to transform it? After that, it's like blockers. So what's stopping you from getting to that point? You're at A, you want to get to C. What's the blocker in between the two? After that, it's then just helping them paint a picture, either a positive or a negative picture, whether they work with you or whether they don't, a lot of the time. And then I would just say, I think I can help, or I think we can help. Do you want me to tell you more about how we normally do help people? Then it's on to objections, and questions. And again, those are quite easy because you'll come up against like 5 objections and a load of questions that are just the same every time. So just, you know, you watch 2-3 hours of YouTube training and pretty much get down to the T how to handle an objection.
Yeah. Okay. Corinne, who joined us slightly later on, she's asked, what advice would you give on finding a professional mentor that will be invested in you?
I've had a few mentors. I've had a couple of big follow accounts and expensive ones as well. And I've had some like small following, mentors with small followings as well. And I found that the smaller followings, so the ones that are actually harder to find, put more effort into the supporting assets.
Mm-hmm.
They will put more effort into helping you. They tend to have less clients, so they're less busy, so they've got more focus. Where do you find them? God, I don't know. 2 of the mentors that I worked with most recently, I actually prospected in some way, thought I could help them, which I probably could, and they would just get into conversation, because I don't try and just sell to people. I want to get to know them first before I sell. And then they mentioned something, and it's the way I am. Like, I think I'm just like, oh, I wouldn't mind that. Like, you could probably help me. And they were, I'm talking like, one had just over 1,000 followers, one had just under. And I think it's good to try and find someone. Don't go out searching for a mentor necessarily. Go out searching for someone who can increase the value of your network, and you'll find people. People have got stuff for sale, and there are loads of amazing smaller creators. These were both on Instagram. I've not had any sort of mentorship around LinkedIn. I don't feel like I need it, but I feel like I need help in various areas for sure. But I don't know. I've bought off people simply because of the size and because of the price. So the size of their following and the price of their services. And then I've thought, this is just like, I'm not getting what I needed from this, especially it's good, but it's not worth the investment. So just went to smaller creators. And I think you should always be in the mix and talking to people. Maybe, I don't know if you should have 2+ coaches or not, unless they're very specific. So I work with a YouTube guy. I've got an email lady. I'm in a couple of business mentorship programs as well. And I don't turn up to the business mentorship programs because it's just a joke.
Oh, good. Well, well, no, thank you for that. That sounds really good. I think I definitely agree in that sometimes smaller freelancers or agencies, they tend to care about you a lot more because you're sort of, you're part of their bottom line. So you have a bit of a higher standing in their mind. I think when somebody has too many people to juggle, you sort of lose that like personalization a little bit. We did have somebody asked for your Instagram link. Now, I will be sending everybody an email after this with a link to the recording that you can get access to, and all of Chris's links as well. So where to get hold of him. However, Chris, if you have it on hand, would you like to put your link in the chat box?
For IG, yeah, sure, we can do that. Just sales guy Chris. Don't judge me on that. That was when I first started out, and now I'm too scared to change it.
So there we go. The chat box, I believe, which is all on your left, is there with the link in to go and follow Chris. Does anybody else have any more questions? Chris, where can I chat about finding?
Oh, where can you find yesterday's chat? That's on my LinkedIn, Basma. It'll be, if you scroll down to the activity section, it's with a guy called Steve Shills. It's wicked. If it should actually be out, let me see if it should be on Spotify by now. If my assistant stuck it on, and then you don't have to look at me. You can just listen instead. It's a lot easier. If I can find that, I'll pull out the link. Yeah, she's not done it. It'll be up later tonight.
So we'll keep an eye on that, and I will hopefully have the link by the time I send the email out too. And can you remind us all of your little competition before we go?
Sorry, yes, of course. I need to just take a screenshot, or if you've got it, Chloe, I don't know if it comes up. There are no not many surnames on here. There we go. So out of the people that have stayed, if anyone shared, I'll be able to correlate that information. And then I will contact someone. I don't know, I might have to do a digital draw out of the hat or something, but I will contact the winner in the next couple of days. I'm away for the weekend, so it'll probably be the following week when we can do the session. But yeah, we can delve into one problem that you have or one aspiration that you have and how we can solve or get you there.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was take a screenshot at any point in the webinar and post it to your social channels, tagging both Chris and myself. And then we'll keep in touch for the digital draw. So good luck with that, everybody. Good luck to the lucky winner who gets a one-to-one with Chris. Now, I don't believe there are any other questions. Just lots of thank yous and lots of love in the comments. So thank you very much for joining us, Chris. It's been absolutely amazing. I've definitely learned so much. As I said, everybody, you'll get an email in the coming days with link to the recording, lots of links to find Chris, and then obviously a reminder of the competition as well. So unless you have anything else, Chris?
Just wanted to say thank you very much for having me, and thanks for staying on, guys. Like, massive retention rate on a webinar or a masterclass, Chloe. So clearly got a well-built community here, and thanks for all the questions. You know, I've done webinars in the past when there's just been no questions, so it's good to be able to have a chat afterwards, I think, as well, because I think that's where the real value comes in. The presentation's one thing, but live stuff is even better, I believe.
Oh, 100%. And if anybody thinks of any questions after the webinar, feel free to post them in the Happy Creative Forum on the community site, and I will make sure to get Chris to respond to them. So thank you very much for joining us all, guys. We will leave you to have a lovely rest of the day. And thank you very much to everybody.
Wicked. Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you so much. And thank you to you as well, Chloe. I've really enjoyed it.
Thanks then. Goodbye, everybody.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.